So a lot of people were confused about how to install MSSQL on their systems, especially on non-Windows systems. So today I'll be showing you how to download and configure MSSQL on macOS, Windows, and Linux. I know that there is a different, easier way to install MSSQL on Windows, but this method works for every platform. And since I have a Mac, I can't show you how it works on Windows. So if you want, you can look that up on YouTube. So for this approach, we will need two tools. We will need Docker and we will need the MSSQL extension on VS Code. So first up, let's install Docker. I'll be installing a Docker desktop since it's easier, but you can download Docker CLI as well. That works just as fine. So I'll be downloading for Apple Silicon, but you can download it for Windows, you can download it for Linux. The options are there. So once you've downloaded it, you can drag it into the applications folder and open Docker right here. And I recommend that you sign in first. Um, yeah, you can sign in just from here. And I'll just use my account. And once you're signed into Docker, you can move on to the next step, which is downloading the MSSQL extension on VS Code. Right? So you can just search this extension up, SQL Server MSSQL. Sorry about that. Um, and make sure that it's published by Microsoft and it has like 7 million downloads. But yeah, so we need to install this extension, and then we can move on to step 3. So first we have to check that we have Docker enabled in our terminal. Yeah, sorry, Docker version. Yep, we have Docker enabled on our system. And for our next step, we need to search Azure SQL Edge. So we just search Docker Azure SQL Edge, and then the first result here. Open it, and then copy the link over here. Right? Copy this link, and first type sudo, and then type docker pull mcr, yeah, like whatever this link says, and just type in your password. And Docker will install this image on your system. It will take some time depending on your system, but it should take about like 10 to 20 minutes. Uh, so now that we have the image, we need to run the container which contains this image. So we need to execute this command. Sorry, yeah, we need to execute this command, and I'll post this command in the description. And the only thing you need to modify here, actually, you can modify two things, but you need to modify the password, right? The default is password 123, but you can change it to anything, all right? And you can also change the username. MySQL user, the default is SA all caps, but you can change it to anything you want, right? So wait, let's see if I have an existing. Okay, I don't have an existing container. So if I just execute this command, it will create this container for me called SQL, right? And yeah, this container is running by default. And just one more thing, make sure your password is alphanumeric with at least one capital letter and one lowercase letter. Otherwise, the container will refuse to run properly. Your default username is SA, but you can change it in the command. Now that the SQL server is running, you just need to connect it to the MSSQL extension on VS Code. So we will head on to VS Code and we will click this tab over here. All right, we will click the connections tab and we will click the plus sign over here. This will take us to the connection wizard. And now we'll just enter all the information of our database. So server name is localhost, right? Server name is localhost, and our username is SA default, and our password is password 123. Now we can just click connect, and this will prompt us with this dialog, which basically we just have to click enable trust server certificates, and now we're connected to our database. Now, how do we perform an SQL query? Well, all we do is we press Command N or Control N to create a new file, save it as an SQL file. I'll save it on my desktop. So sample.sql. Right. So let's say we want to create a table. Create table students name, fname varchar 50. Right. Let's say you want to create a table. Students, right? So once we've typed in our query, we can just click run on active connection over here. Alternatively, we can click the screen play button, right? Uh, and then this dialog bar will pop up over here, and it'll ask us to do the connection. We'll choose our newly formed localhost connection. We can check the username here, and we will be prompted for the password once again. Again, the default is password 123. I would advise you to save the password, but if you don't want to, that's up to you. So, okay, there we go. Now our SQL database is set up, and we've just created a new table. And if you want to query that table, we can just do select all from students, I think. There we go. And then once again, we press the green button over here, and then in the output window, we can see our SQL table. And alternatively, if you want to go in and check out your system over here, your tables over here, you can verify that indeed this created a students table in our database. And yeah, that's it. It's a pretty simple process. It's not that hard. And hopefully those of you who don't have Windows machines are may find this helpful. And yeah, in general, I just hope this helped. Thank you. Sorry, and as a side note, you should not keep this Docker container running, since it does eat up resources, no matter how tiny they are. So once you're done with your database, all you can do is, to stop the container, is that you can either go to Docker Desktop and press this little stop button over here that will stop the container. Or if you want to go to the command line, you can just type sudo docker stop the name of the container, which is SQL. So if we execute this command, it'll ask us for our password, and it will hopefully stop the container. It'll take some time, but the container will die out on its own once it's done. Yep. So now the container is turned off. We can basically, make resources that were occupied otherwise free. Now, if you want to restart the container, and if you want to use your database again, just type sudo docker restart the name of the container, SQL, or alternatively, you can go to Docker Desktop and just press the start button over here in the containers tab, and on the SQL bar thingy, you can just click start, or you can type in this command and it'll start your container. Keep in mind that you might need to go through the connection process again, so just click the plus sign over here and just go through the entire connection process again, and you should be good to go once again.